Hi, Paul Thurrott here at AvePoint's ShiftHappens in Washington, D.C. I'm with Microsoft Corporate Vice President of Office 365, Jeff Teper. Good morning.
Good morning, Paul.
Congratulations on your successful address today.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, you've probably told these stories a million times. I'm
Yeah.
sure this is very boring for you, but could you take us back to your start of your career at Microsoft and maybe step us through some of the things you've done there?
Yeah, I'd been a developer in a small firm in New York and saw the potential of the PC explosion and Microsoft in particular, and so I applied to a New York Times ad about a job in Microsoft. They asked me what's the difference between an 8386 chip and an 8086 chip. Nice. I got the answer to that one correct. I got the flight to Redmond. There was a lot more grueling interview when I got there.
Right.
And I got hired to be a developer evangelist for what became Windows NT and client-server computing. And
so this was early 1990s?
Yeah, 92.
Yeah. Nice.
And so spreading the gospel of empowerment with computing.
So you are the father of SharePoint, as
Yeah.
they say. I mean, can you explain how that came about?
Yeah, it was interesting. So we had a project that we had worked on called Site Server. That
Right.
was well-intentioned, but not a phenomenal success. It is known for having some interesting general managers on it. A guy named Satya Nadella
Yes.
did a piece of it that became BizTalk and Commerce Server, and he went on to some big things.
I heard that, yeah.
Terry Meyerson, we acquired his company for part of it, and so it was like an amazing team, but the product wasn't a great product, and
Right.
so we started over, and I had pitched that Office needed a server for content collaboration, and intranets were happening, and we should build it so that it didn't make you choose between Office documents and the web, but embraced both. And so we built SharePoint, and it became a mainstream part of the Office team.
Was the self-service nature of SharePoint central from the beginning of this notion that we didn't have to go to an admin and ask for provisions,
Yeah.
storage, and permissions and things?
Yeah, I don't know if we used the word virality officially,
Yeah.
but that was definitely by design. I have this picture that I've occasionally every 3-4 years resurrected at SharePoint conferences about the one slide cheat sheet I brought into the review with Bill.
Nice.
And I had this picture of an org chart that had top down for portals and bottoms up for collaboration, and that we were going to try to build one product that did both.
Right. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So obviously SharePoint today is still a central part of what is now Office 365. And I think, from my perspective on the outside of Microsoft, it's been really fascinating to watch the rest of Microsoft essentially follow the Office 365 model, which is this transformation to the cloud. I mean, from inside Microsoft, was this a natural transition, or how did that
Yeah,
happen?
I think people spotted the obvious technical and economic advantages of cloud computing, where you could get the latest bits from us. We do a better job running it, and you could focus on using them.
Right.
And so we did the obvious things. We took at least the 3 big servers we had, Exchange, SharePoint, and SQL, and started hosting them. And the first wave of customers were definitely early adopters, we learned. And now we talked about this a bit in the keynote, is that you no longer have to distribute things in a monolith. Like SharePoint was almost like a SaaS PaaS solution.
Sure.
Power BI used to be a feature of SharePoint because we had no way to get
SharePoint's
IT.
a battleship.
Yeah, well, why did we do that?
Yeah.
Because you only had one shot with IT to deploy things, and so you might as well put a lot of things in it. And so we put a lot of things in Exchange, a lot in SharePoint, a lot of SQL. And in the cloud world, teams can develop services. We were talking before about our Stream video service, Microsoft Forms, Power Apps and Flow. Azure's got a lot of services. And so now we see these sort of federations of services for productivity on the Microsoft 365 side, and platform on the Azure side is good examples. And we are, it was fun to go through that phase of server, but delivering it to the cloud. Both are important, and now we still distribute server products, but honestly, almost all the energy is cloud first in the company, which is quite a change.
Right. One of the big benefits of Office 365, as you know, is that these products are all there, and they can be developed in tandem, and they can rely on each other. You don't have to assume that this is the only thing that a company has installed. And so that's kind of interesting from a synergy perspective, but it also leads to an incredible amount of detail or complexity almost. And it's amazing to me how well the Office 365 org has kind of handled that. I've seen some trouble on the Windows side handling updates, but it seems like features are added to Office 365.
Ducks is disco music.
Exactly. We've been dealing with this for the past 2 days. So, but it's interesting how quickly Office 365 adapts, and it's not those big bang releases like we're talking. It's individual features happening all the time, literally every month. I mean, how do you handle that kind of thing?
Yeah, we've learned a lot. We have made some mistakes along the way, and we've improved all aspects of the engineering. You know, one thing we've done is a lot more automation of earlier. You know, when developers write code from the very get-go. You know, I would say we always did that. Honestly, the amount we do is dramatically higher now. Right. The other thing is we talk about deployment rings, where a new feature goes in its work group, goes all the Office 365 team, goes all of Microsoft to insiders. And so we go through these rings, and then we have what we call flights and kill switches, where you can turn things on and off. We have telemetry, where we detect anomalies. So if the software got slower, we stop going through these progressions. And it's not like we did all these things 11 years ago when we first started driving the cloud. We had to figure these out. We made some mistakes in the first couple of years, and now I think we are pretty good at it. That you don't. What you have to do in all cloud services is know you're going to make some mistakes, but make them at extremely small scale, catch them fast, and fix them fast. And so you're not rolling back a whole version of Windows or a whole version of Office. You're turning on or off a feature. You ship a feature that starts to see signal that's not great, you flip it off.
Is it fair to say the rest of Microsoft has used you as the example that works and has followed the lead in that?
Yeah, no, we learn a lot from each other. The Windows team is working really closely with us. In fact, one of the things that was pretty exciting when they did the release of the version of Edge that used the Chromium technology, it was interesting because there was a release of the browser separate from a normal Windows update. They used our updating mechanisms from the Office team to do that.
Okay, that's great. So speaking of that, you're now in a larger organization that includes Windows and some other parts of Microsoft called Microsoft 365.
Yeah.
How does that change things? Do you see that natural evolution of the synergy between products to extend past Office to include things like Windows or EMS?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're all on a common leadership team. Rajesh Jha is the EVP of the Experiences and Devices group, and what we've gotten better at doing is having a common set of goals of customer success, of business success. We have figured out, every organization's got to figure out the Goldilocks bureaucracy. What is just enough to make sure that things come out to customers as coherent solutions, but not so much that you're stifling creativity and innovation. Right. And I think this organization's been in place now. I think it was probably about 14 months ago that Rajesh took on this role, and I think we have figured out the way to how Office and Windows and Surface do UX design together in a way where we're energized by it. We're building a better product together, but we also let the designers sort of go do their work. So it's taken a while to figure that out. Yeah, that sort of speed.
You mentioned, I think, specifically working with Joe Belfiore from the Windows side of the house from a design standpoint.
Yeah.
So that's this kind of cross-product design work that's occurring.
Yeah. So the designers who work for Joe, Panos, and I, they take the lead on this, and then once a week we get together actually in Panos' conference room and look at some of these things and say, does it all make sense? How is OneDrive going to show up in Windows? How is Ink going to work across Surface and PowerPoint? And I think we're raising the bar on a lot of this stuff.
Great, that's great. So one final question. This is
Yeah.
super specific, but it just happened this week, and I'm really interested in it. I saw that Apple released iCloud to the Microsoft Store.
Yeah.
And it's a little different from the traditional desktop client they have in that it uses the files on demand functionality that debuted in OneDrive and Windows
Yeah.
10. So how did that
Yeah,
happen? I wasn't even aware that was a possibility.
Yeah, no, it's great to see iCloud on Windows, and of course we have OneDrive files on demand on the Mac.
Yep.
And both companies work together to deliver those. And there's a layer of platformization that both platforms expose, so the other could do that feature. There's obviously unique work. We think there's a lot of things in OneDrive iCloud doesn't have, so you should use OneDrive on your Mac.
Right. I agree with that, by the way.
And we've got a lot more coming. We have real-time co-authoring and a bunch of other things that are unique. But at the same time, competition and interoperability is good, and so Apple and Microsoft have found common ground on a lot of things, and it was great to see.
Right. That's fantastic. Thank you. And thank all of you. Again, we are at AvePoint's Shift Happens conference in Washington, D.C. Thanks for tuning in.